Hello and welcome to today's Thursday show on Our Game. Who are these two fresh-faced individuals? I don't know what. Haven't seen you looking like this in a long time, Shano. I gave myself a little spruce up in recent days as well. What's the story? Good to have you here and looking a bit different, and good for you to finally back up your forfeit and actually deliver on something.
Yeah, tell people why I'm so fresh-faced today.
Well, I absolutely nailed you in a Christmas quiz, and you were supposed to shave. I think this is the third time lucky. I think you finally delivered on it. I think I was getting a sweet fade. You were going to shave and looked like I don't know what. You looked like a kind of a teenager or something, maybe 14, 15 before he's maybe hit development. You haven't hit minor. You definitely haven't hit the senior ranks yet anyway.
Yeah, I'm not one bit happy with it, but a forfeit is a forfeit. I lost the quiz by one question, and I'm as good as me bet as well. Just a reminder, we are brought, send in your sneers, get them in there. Just a reminder that we are brought to you by ourstore.ie. It's the official merchandise of OurGame.ie. Huge amount of items available there now. Look at those different things from all the different counties. So huge amount of stuff there. Go and check out ourstore.ie. Michael, are you happy? Are you happy now? Are you happy that I look like this?
Yeah, I think we need to up the ante the next time, maybe, though. And I'm not sure what the upping that ante is, but I'll find it anyway. And we might do something maybe at the end of the league, and then we'll do something at the end of the championship, and we'll do something at the end of the year again. But Flash just says, good afternoon, lads. Hope you had a good weekend. And Jesus, the baby faces, definitely. We look a bit different. Good to have you back, Flash, as well. Jack Nulty getting a good laugh at your expense as well too, Shane. But listen, we've bigger fish to fry over the next 90 minutes or so. We're going to be joined by Adrian Mullen, former young hurler of the year, and obviously all-star hurler and Ballyhale Shamrock star, building up to the club final. And we're going to be joined by the current young footballer of the year, Jack Lynn, as well, who's obviously preparing for a Sigerson Cup campaign and hoping to go one better with Galway this year. So we've a bumper show, not to mention all the games to look forward to this weekend as well.
Yeah, and we're going to squeeze a hurling power rankings in there as well, the first one for 2023. So we haven't talked about it beforehand. No doubt there'll be a little bit of a disagreement here and there, but sure, look, that's part of the fun of it. Do you know what? I saw this very interesting interview a little bit earlier, or sorry, it's more so a quote from an interview. So people out there who are into their soccer, Southampton beat Man City last night in the League Cup quarter-final, and Nathan Jones, who's lost all of his league games 4 out of 4, is under a huge amount of pressure. Won a couple of cup games, but to win this one now, they were very much not expected to win this. And in his interview today, he said, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and he gives me faith every day, and I have consummate faith in my ability. And as I've seen people comment to that, you're very much expecting that in American sports, because there are huge parts of America, Bible Belt and so on and so forth. But it's very unusual to hear that from a manager in something like the Premier League. And I would say Ireland used to be obviously hugely Catholic, and overwhelmingly is so, but I don't know if as many are practicing Catholics, or like myself, I'm Catholic, but I wouldn't say I'm going to mass all that often at all, or a huge believer. And I just wonder if a GA manager came out and said that now, they'd actually probably be ridiculed, wouldn't they? Even though, if you're into that and it's your faith, it's fine. But I guarantee you they'd be ridiculed in certain quarters, even if it's quietly.
Yeah, things have changed a lot. I don't ever recall anyone. I can't think of a GA interview off the top of my head where someone volunteered that. I know there's been interviews before. Katie Taylor does volunteer it, yeah. I can't think of a GA interview where it's been volunteered. Keane Lynch would be asked about his faith, and he'd talk about it. And I remember I think Aaron Gillan was asked about it a couple of years ago in an interview, and he talked about it as well. But someone actually volunteering it like that, and there's no point in saying any different. They probably would be a fair element of ridicule behind it. That's just the world that we live in the moment as well. And it's funny, even when Catholicism was, at its height in this country, you still probably would have been ridiculed for saying it. But even because it's dropped now, you'd probably be ridiculed even more, just because people think they can comment on anything in anyone's life and poke fun at them or whatever. It is an interesting one, though.
Yeah, we're a fair country of sneers, though, so maybe a lot of it comes, and begrudgers. So a lot of it comes down to that too. But it's not all that long ago that we used to have priests over inter-county teams, Father Tom Fogarty and so on and so forth.
Managed us, managed G, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Let's see. Flash is saying, hope you're doing your skincare routines. Absolutely not. Junior Zed Hurler says, you might sneak onto the Fitzgibbon with the baby faces, lads. Although maybe your wife is getting you on the skincare routines.
No, I don't think so. You'd see if you zoom in closely, I'd say you'll get good look at it.
You actually don't even wash your face.
To be honest with you, I'm very bad. It might take me an hour to shave, because if I just shaved up and down like that, I'd be destroyed for about 3 weeks after. So it's almost like that, picking things off. But it's funny you talk about people's faith and things like that. I actually watched is a mad enough documentary about a card counting group in America that go around to all different casinos, but they all came together because they all share one thing: they're all really devout Christians. So it's just this element of Christians going around taking money out of casinos. You'd imagine there's a little bit of a funny kind of a balance there between your faith and how you're making your money. But I just thought it was an interesting one. Flash just says as well there, and this is true, and you see an awful lot of it now, boxing and MMA fighters are gassed for the post-match thanking God soundbite. It's probably, like Tyson Fury even would often mention his faith. A lot of MMA fighters as well. And Katie Taylor obviously
Khabib
would be one of the biggest ones.
Khabib as well.
Yeah, Khabib would say it as well. Yeah, Khabib lost the rag one time with a reporter who said Assalamu alaikum, and also thanked in the same breath congratulated McGregor for his success with Proper 12 whiskey, and he just lost it. He lost it completely.
Okay, I'm going to give you one go at it, and you have to say it quickly. What's Khabib's surname?
Khabib Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov. Yeah, I haven't heard it in a while, because after I was at their fight in Vegas that time, I went as a journalist. I went as just for the crack more than anything else. And to hear Bruce Buffer and the lads, not Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer going full belt on a name that's near him, like very difficult to pronounce in front of thousands of people, is a joy to behold.
So David Burke has committed to the Galway Senior Hurlers for another year. I think it would be fair to say that he had a brilliant career, which culminated in the All-Ireland title and being captain for 2017. And then, he kept that form going for a while. And then probably a couple of seasons, it wasn't quite where it had been. Maybe that's partly down to injury. But then last year had an excellent season again. So you can see why Henry Shefflin would want him back involved.
Yeah, without a doubt. I actually thought he was nearly nailed on for an All-Star in 2018 as well. I thought he was brilliant that year, particularly when very few other lads outside of maybe Joe Canning played well in that All-Ireland final, or the dying minutes of that All-Ireland final. Top Burke stood up really well. Has had a good few injuries. Remember, he was whipped off at half-time against Limerick in that All-Ireland semi-final, the COVID semi-final in 2020. But he's absolutely, he's flew back to form last year. He was brilliant. Even for Thomas's, he was very good as well. I think he's been given a bit of extended time off along with Conor Cooney and Fintan Burke, just to get the bodies back right after probably training the whole way through with Galway, and then Thomas is winning 5 in a row. The disappointment of losing to Dunley, and I'd imagine they'd be back around the time of the first or second league game, I'd say.
Yeah, since Monday's show, I hadn't had an opportunity to see Galway beating Westmeath, but I've watched it back in the meantime. Probably one or two lads who've put their hands up. Adrian Toohey came in at centre back and did really well. So last year he wasn't involved because I think he had a pretty bad injury. And to play at number 6, come forward and score a couple of points. They won by quite a margin for a finish, but for long spells of the game it was pretty close. And he was very good, and he's good on the ball. He's able to turn and drive forward, so that's definitely an option for them. A couple of other lads did all right. Martin McManus scored 2 goals. Declan McLaughlin got a nice point early on. Evan Nyland hit the freeze. Probably would like to be a little bit more involved during play. Needs to kick on that bit more, I would say. And Conor Whelan, he came off with some sort of a knock towards the end of the game, but I think he set up 3 or 4 goal opportunities from centre forward. So I think it's pretty obvious that the team is going to be built around him once more. And just to be
on
fair,
that, Shane, as well, I think it's important that if he's been tightly marked by someone, if he's been tightly marked by a Sean Finn or whoever it is in a game, that they have that flexibility that they can move him out the pitch and he can, score points from out there or create from out there. And that he's not just allowed to be tied down maybe at a vital stage of the game, maybe as he was in the latter stages of the All-Ireland final last year against Limerick.
Yeah, I think for Westmeath it was a bit of a chastening second half there, and look, Joe Fortune will obviously be looking to kick on in the coming games. Tough cornerbacks, as fighters definitely come from more working class backgrounds where religion may still have a greater influence on the community. The NFL are full of thanking God. Look at last weekend with the Hamlin injury, so that's Damar Hamlin, who had the cardiac arrest on the pitch for the Buffalo Bills. Thankfully, he's been released from hospital now. He's doing well. That was PWell74. Flash says American sports in general are very big in talking about their faith. Sport and religion nearly go hand in hand over there. I mean, if you ever watch any of those Last Chance U or anything like that, often in the dressing room beforehand, you have everyone getting down on one knee and there's a bit of a prayer said. Same with watching, Friday Night Lights or any of these great shows. Yeah, just hard to imagine it in an Irish setting. You wanted to talk about Davy Russell and will you give the context of his dramatic U-turn from retirement and then?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So Davy retired a week before Christmas at the age of 43. Had spinal and neck injuries. I'm going to say around October of 2020 that he really shouldn't have been able to recover from, in the sense of coming back and getting back into the saddle. Got back, recovered about a year later. He was completely written off in all quarters. He retired before Christmas. Everybody was delighted for him that he retired, in one piece. He probably retired in a way at the top of his game as well. The door was open for Jack Kennedy to take over as, number one jockey to Gordon Elliott. But then last Sunday, Jack Kennedy, who's a fantastic jockey and the closest, reincarnation to Ruby Walsh, he breaks his leg for the fifth time. Like, it's just cruel luck for a guy who's just unbelievably talented. And that means that the Dublin Racing Festival is on the first weekend in February. Cheltenham is on the second week of March. Jack Kennedy's probably not going to make Cheltenham at this stage. So last night, Davy Russell released a very short statement saying that, having spoken to Gordon Elliott, he's back. He's back until Jack is able to return again. So it's a mad kind of a retirement U-turn. Just thinking about GA ones, DJ Carey would definitely be one. Lara Corbett would be another one. Is there any ones in particular that stand out to you?
We'll come back to that in a little while, because delighted to say we have Adrian Mullen of DCU, Doak Sairn and Kilkenny, looking ahead to the upcoming matches and rivalries across the Electric Ireland GA Higher Education Championships. Through its hashtag First Class Rivals campaign, Electric Ireland will continue to celebrate the unexpected alliances that form between county rivals as they come together in pursuit of some of the most coveted titles across Camogie and GA. Adrian, how are things with you?
Well, lads, how are you?
Not too bad. We're just wondering, as I read through that, what sort of unexpected alliances and teammates from rival counties do you have in DCU?
I suppose you'd have people from a load of different counties, I suppose, Wexford, Dublin, Westmeath, just different counties like that, I suppose, that you'd never really expect yourself to be playing with those lads, because you're usually playing against them. It is different.
We want names.
I can't name names now, but it is nice to hear of them.
And do you live in Dublin during the week, or do you drive up from Kilkenny when you're going to college?
Yeah, no, I live up here. I'm living in Finglas here at the moment, so it is handy.
And would you live with any of the players, any of the other lads that you play with?
I'm living with two lads at the moment. So one is from Kilkenny, Jim Ryan. He plays with the Roar and the Steag, and the other lad is James Keys from Leash. So he's not playing Fitzgibbon this year, but he would have played there last year. And
yeah, he's pacey forward, isn't he?
He's good, in fairness to him. Yeah, no, he's handy.
Yeah. Michael, do you want to jump in?
Just a quick one, Adrian. I've been at a couple of your games the last couple of years in the Fitzgibbon Cup, and I know it's probably something that has annoyed you that you haven't maybe. I don't think you were beaten in. Was it a semi-final that Mark Coleman put over that line ball to beat you a couple of years ago? Something like winning a Fitzgibbon is something I know that I know even from looking at you in the build-up to games. Seems to be a great camaraderie amongst the squad, and it's something that you'd love to do, I'd imagine.
Yeah, look, it's a great atmosphere up here. It's great to be involved with the team, but look, I don't think DCU has ever won a Fitzgibbon title. like obviously we'd love to do it, and if we got the chance to bring a Fitzgibbon title back here, it'd be an unbelievable achievement, and it's something we really want to do up here.
Were you part of an All-Ireland winner freshers team? DCU won a freshers a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, they won it. No, I wasn't part of that one. No, I was the year after.
Okay. And obviously, yeah, winning a Fitzgibbon would be unreal, especially don't think UCD have won one in a good while either. So it would be a fair one. It'd be a left field one for where DCU to go and win one. So I'm sure you'll be doing everything possible. You've a difficult juggling act on your hands at the moment as well, though, between county. Well, you're obviously not involved with the county at the moment, but club, and then presume once the club finishes, you'll want to hopefully enjoy yourself for a couple of days. But you want to get back. You have to get back at it fairly quick after too, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. We're playing the Club All-Ireland on the 22nd, and our first Fitzgibbon match is against Mary on the 25th of January. So it's a quick enough turnaround, and so I'll have to have the body right for that as well. So we'll see how it goes.
It's funny. I remember seeing Kevin Moran play for De La Salle. I think it was a Club All-Ireland final. I think he was the best player on the field. And he had to play Fitzgibbon about 4 days later, and you could just, it's so difficult because De La Salle were beaten, I think, in that final, and it's so difficult, the highs and lows of it, and even not being smart, if you win the Club All-Ireland, you're going to want to enjoy yourself as well, so it's a kind of a difficult balancing act.
Yeah, but it's obviously great to be involved in as well, and it's probably a good complaint to have, facing into a game 3 days later, we'll see how it goes and take it as it comes.
What's the club season been like for you? Because obviously after what happened last year against Ballygunner, you had a huge hunger to get back. And a couple of the games, maybe the likes of Naas kind of springs to mind, and obviously Kilmacud as well. You probably played great stuff for one half, but then not so great for the other half before that performance against Ballygunner, which was really excellent. But what's it been like for you?
Since we came back from the county, we have, I suppose, new management in this year as well, who have been very good so far. They really bring kind of a freshness to it as well. So, we're just, I suppose, we talk an awful lot between ourselves about not putting two good halves together, because, as you said, we put one good half in against Naas and against Kilmacud. Obviously, the first half was good, and then the second half we probably fell apart. Going into Ballygunner, then there was just a huge emphasis of putting two good halves together. So I think we did that and we got over the line. So now we just have to prepare as best we can for Dunley and try to we're going to need to bring a very good game against them. The main thing is putting two good halves together.
And how satisfying was it to get that win over Ballygunner after what happened back in February?
Well, I suppose the most satisfying part about it was that we're back in the All-Ireland final. At least we have a chance now to. Obviously, we lost last year, so we have a chance now to, I suppose, maybe hopefully win this year. But it was obviously good to get one over on Ballygunner as well, because obviously they beat us in the All-Ireland, so you obviously want to beat the All-Ireland champions and play against the best and try to beat the best. It was a good one.
Yeah,
did you see Dunloy's match against St. Thomas's? I'm sure you did, and that great goal from Keelan Malloy.
Yeah, I watched the back, of course. It was an unbelievable goal. I think he picked it up, was on the 65 or around there, and just cut through the whole defence. I suppose that's the threat they have in the inside forward line. They're really fast and good skillful players. You give them the space and they will hurt you.
Do you think you've changed much as a player in the last few years? Obviously, I think you made your inter-county debut in 2019, and just see you floating around different parts of the pitch now. And I'm wondering, have you kind of changed your role, or how has it evolved?
No, I don't think I've changed too much, to be honest. The first year I was with Kilkenny, I was corner forward, but I suppose I was more of a roaming corner forward than an actual, staying in the corner, So I suppose I probably do that a bit further out the field now. But look, obviously, I'm there to work hard as well. There's only so much roaming you can do, and picking up loose ball, you still have to get stuck into the tackles and get the turnovers, which are really vital for the team.
Michael?
Has it been a conscious thing in the last couple of years, Adrian, or was it when you were out with your cruciate, maybe about even building yourself up even more, gone very robust into the tackle? You're probably able to take and give tackles maybe a lot more than you would have been a couple of years ago. Is that just a natural filling out thing, or did you make a conscious effort, I suppose, to get maybe even a bit bulkier and a bit more robust?
No, I just think it's natural development, really. He's probably younger back then, and it's natural to put on a bit of size over the years. As well, like obviously I was out with the cruciate there a couple of years ago, and I was working extremely hard, and I was working very close with our strength and conditioning coach Mickey Comfort, as well as who's obviously excellent at his job as well. So I've probably packed on a bit of size, all right, but that's thanks to him, and he put in a huge effort.
I'd say there's a fair few steaks and a fair bit of protein gone into it as well. It's not all natural, and a fair bit of hard work to it too. Can I just ask you about Pat Hoban and the new team coming in? It's a mad one to say that you're on the 5-year journey. Henry was there for 2 years, and then James O'Connor was there for 2 years, and now the lads have come in, and it's all been able to continue on. Is that a case of them not changing too much from what was going on before, or just talk to me about that? Because there's a lot of clubs where that wouldn't happen. The success wouldn't continue when a new management comes in.
To be honest, I think there has been changes throughout the 3 different managements. And I think those changes bring kind of a freshness to the team. Like, you're not going stale and doing the same thing the whole time, because they're trying to bring their own ideas to it. Like, and I suppose that just makes you work even that bit harder on the training field to try and execute the game plan or the tactics that they provide. The 3 boys have been unbelievable this year, Pat, Jimmy Marr and Niall Lacey. So I can't speak highly enough of them, but obviously we still have one more game to get over, and we have full focus on that. Like, so we'll just prepare as best we can.
Adrian, who would be, I asked this to Owen Cody not so long ago. I want to get your thoughts on it. Who'd be the biggest sneer in the Ballyhale dressing room?
Biggest sneer. Well, when you catch Joey Holden and Colin Fennelly together, there's no getting away from them. You can't even go back at them because they're just too good at it. Like, when they gang up on you, you're at nothing. Like, so them together, they're a good duo. And they always kind of seem to be together, ganging up on lads. So,
he did say Joey Holden, actually. He definitely did say it.
Yeah, and it's not the lad you would have expected now. He's a bit like a pure kind of dark horse there. I thought Joey would have been quiet enough, but it's those kind of quiet, sly comments that maybe hurt the most, probably.
Yeah, he wouldn't be saying much, but his little one-liners and stuff like that, like, there's no come back from, like, so. He's good at it now. He's a sneery man.
Have you tried to tempt Colin back into Kilkenny? Have you said that to
him? Sure, look, we'd obviously love him to be back in, like, but Colin's his own man and he makes his own decisions, like, so you wouldn't get too into it with him, like, but no, I think he probably knows we'd love to have him in there, but look, it's just the way it's working out.
Have you met a more physical player? Sorry, I just want to ask about Colin as well. Have you met a more physically imposing player than Colin? Like, he just seems like a bull.
His brother Mick, I'd say.
Right, okay.
No, Colin's unreal to have in on the edge of square, like, it doesn't really matter what ball you give into him. Nearly turns into a wrestling match in there with him and the full back, like, so. No, he's deadly. He's so direct when he gets the ball, like, so. Hopefully he can just bring that to the game next week.
They're your cousins as well, Adrian, are they?
First cousins, yeah.
First cousins, yeah. Jesus, good breeding there. Just a quick question from one of our viewers, Pwell74. Says, could you just ask Adrian how he finds the split season, as he's at the extreme edge of it and he has no break? You're obviously, I'd say your opinion and TJ's opinion might be different, just even age-wise, but how do you find it? You probably haven't really had much of a break. Is it tough on the body? You're going to be going straight into... Yeah, you just kind of said you're going to be going straight into Fitzgibbon and in with Kilkenny as well fairly quickly after, so it's fairly full on.
To be honest, my own personal opinion, I actually do. I'm in favour of it. Like, I loved it this year. You get to give your all to the county, and then you come back and give all to the club. Like, so. It's definitely worked good. I think most inter-county players actually did have positive things to say about it. Like, but. I'm not too sure about the club players what they think of it, but just from my own personal opinion, I enjoyed it this year.
Yeah, and I suppose then the other thing is, do you, like, having that extended period of time with the club, does it allow you to let your hair down a little bit more and enjoy yourself? Because it's not like pretty much after every match, if you want to, you can go out and enjoy yourself, unless you have a game next week.
Yeah, I suppose you can put the hair down a small bit, like so especially during the league. I suppose you can after nearly every game you get to have a few pints with your teammates. Like, so I think it's easier that way. But obviously when you're in training, you train really hard. Like, and I suppose you probably earn your few pints in the training. Like, so yeah, no, and then probably haven't got too much of a break because we've gone the full way this year into the All Ireland. So yeah, no, it is good.
How important do you find that social element of it, Adrian, to be able to, particularly at club level, it's a bit more difficult at county, time-wise and how condensed things are, but to actually be able to go out and enjoy yourself with the boys after the game? I'd always find, I actually don't drink myself, but I'd always encourage it, because I think lads being out like that together, like, it's the first thing you're probably going to talk about the Tuesday night when you go back in training is something someone did or the crack that was had. It's an important part that I think helps bind clubs, and not being smart, you have as strong of a bind within your club as any club in the country.
Yeah, exactly. I think club level, I actually do think it's important. It really adds to, I suppose, the atmosphere around training and the club, and obviously when you go out for your few pints or whatever, it's just a way of getting the younger lads and the older lads to mix. And I think around our setup, I think we do that very well. You can see, like, the oldest player on our team talk to the youngest player, like, and it doesn't really matter. Like, so I think that's just from those having those few pints. I think that's the good thing about it.
What sort of shape is Darren in for the final, Adrian? I know he's been fairly plagued with injuries the last couple of years, and he obviously went off early the last days. Was he going to be in the running for the Dunley game?
Yeah, no, Darren seems to be coming on very well. So I think against Ballygunner, he came off in the first couple of minutes, like, so with I think a calf problem. But no, he's had a few weeks to get himself right, and there's no better man to, I suppose, do his rehab as well. Like, so no, he'll be good.
Just on that as well, you've had like the last day against Ballygunner, you had two like pretty serious injuries and two big substitutions early in the game. That must have made it even more satisfying to do what you did, because I suppose there was, people were kind of maybe writing you off in some quarters beforehand, and then you throw in the two big injuries to it as well.
Yeah, definitely, because I think coming into the game, people are probably edging Ballygunner because they're probably saying they have more strength and depth in their panel. Like, so it was extremely satisfying to. Obviously, it wasn't nice to see those lads go off, but for other lads to come in and do a job, it was extremely satisfying.
Okay, well, look, Adrian, been brilliant to have you on the show, and best of luck in the All Ireland final and in the Fitzgibbon Cup as well.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, lads.
Cheers, Adrian. Good man.
Okay, so brilliant to have Adrian there. Now, where were we? Players that made a comeback, that had retired.
Sensational U-turns, yeah.
Yeah, sensational.
Didn't look likely.
Now we need our viewers to get involved here, because it's going to be hard to think of players from every county. But you mentioned DJ Carey. Did you mention Brian Corcoran?
Yeah, like did it happen with DJ a couple of times? Am I right in saying?
There was one time, I think it was only for about 6 weeks. That was probably the late 90s. Again, our viewers will probably remember off the top of their heads, so get the comments in there. Yeah, maybe it happened twice. It definitely happened once. Brian Corcoran, he retired, came back, and obviously went into full forward and gave an exhibition for Cork. Mike McCarthy, he left. He'd won everything with Kerry, and actually, you might actually give us the details about how he was lured back in.
Yeah, there was a funny one with Mike McCarthy. So I think Jack O'Connor rang him, and what he said after was he took the call from Jack O'Connor outside McDonald's pub in Tralee and agreed to go back. And the quote he said was, "I had a few cans and maybe my mind was a bit weak." Sometimes it's funny if you make a call at the right time, and if you make a call at the wrong time, you could get the answer that you don't want. But I think, like Mike McCarthy kind of said, he was a bit sick of chasing around after like real nippy inside forwards. But he came back then and he was outstanding for Kerry, and was a big difference. Big similarities between him and Brian Corcoran, you'd have to say. Two linchpins that came back and were so crucial to their teams getting over the line then.
If Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion help Dublin across the line with an All-Ireland this year, that'll be a fair comeback. But they're both in their prime. But then again, so was the likes of Mike McCarthy, and Brian Corcoran wasn't that far off his prime.
No, and I think the thing about Jack and Paul Mannion is, while neither retired, I don't think either were really expected back. The vibes were that neither were going to come back, and another year out of the fold, and you probably lose in time where you actually could come back and still be in your peak. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they hit the ground running. The fact that there's two of them in it probably makes it easier for both of them as well. But even if it's just a case where one of them is fully fit to play a big game, I think it'll be a massive difference, and could be that thing that swings it. Like, just thinking, if Con had been on the pitch last year, Dublin probably would have won that All-Ireland semi-final. That's not to mention Jack McCaffrey or Paul Mannion. And this is a funny one, Shane. He's never officially retired. It wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility for Stephen Cluxton to be seen on a GA pitch again with Dublin. I'm just saying it wouldn't be. I know he's 40 odd now, but it still wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility. They've pulled out every joker in the pack this year, it seems. You imagine they pulled out one more, like the biggest of them all.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says no. DJ had an extended break prior to comeback in the 2002 All-Ireland semi-final.
But he did retire in the 90s. He definitely retired in the 90s. Remember, there was a lot of pressure and there was a lot of media.
Bad press as well.
Yeah, a lot of bad press. I remember, an unsavory enough story been printed the morning of an All-Ireland final that he was playing in, which was just obviously the worst preparation possible. He had the extended break before the 2002 semi-final. He set up, was it Ken Coogan for the goal? Was it Ken Coogan, I think, for the goal? And then he scored that great point off his hurl where he left Ollie Baker in his wake in the All-Ireland final. He set up Henry's goal as well. Henry set up his goal. Remember, Henry took a shot and DJ came in and tapped it in, got in front of Brian Quinn, yeah.
You couldn't wait to bring up when Henry mishit a shot, could you? Taking a pop at him.
Yeah, right. He might try and say it was a pass, but it definitely wasn't. We get the assist in the fantasy soccer, but we've the more an assist now.
ML89 says David Burke, great servant of one of the best midfielders of the last 30 years, robbed of a fifth All-Star in 2018.
Yeah,
scored 7 points between semi-final and final from midfield. Great to see him back, sound lad. Jared Pickering Jr. asked, will Patrick Fitzgerald score a goal in the championship this year? My guess is yes.
That's a good question.
Well, he won't score one at home anyway, because Walsh Park won't be in use. So he might score him inside in the good field in Thurles, maybe. I could see him scoring a goal this year. I'd imagine he'll be unleashed in 2023.
I'd say he probably will. I'd say he might come into the Waterford equation maybe towards the latter stages of the league. I'd definitely be gently bringing him back in. Just thinking about Shane as well. Remember when Desi came in on the back of that real good campaign with Ballygunner at the end of 2019? He obviously, Borsley beat them in that Munster final. But Desi struggled in that league before COVID. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Struggled quite a bit, getting up to the level of inter-county or whatever. Then he came back, towards the latter stages of the year. He ended up getting an All-Star nomination. He's been All-Star nominated the 3 years he's been involved with Waterford, which is some going for a guy that hadn't played inter-county football before that, or inter-county hurling. He had played inter-county football, and he'd been playing soccer before that. But I think Patrick Fitzgerald will need a little bit of time to bed in. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw him come in a couple of times off the bench. I was thinking about this as well with Cottle O'Neill. Remember Cottle O'Neill played that league game against Galway in 2021 and I think he was taken off. Yeah, no,
he did well though. Did he not score a nice point or two though the same day?
No, I think you might be thinking of last year. He got his debut in 2021, I think, and was under pressure throughout the game. But he had that experience then. When he came in last year, he was better again. And then he obviously contributed in the All-Ireland final and contributed in some of their big championship games. So I'm fairly sure that his first big start for Limerick was in a league game against Galway. Remember Kylie came out with the comments after that he thought Galway were simulating a bit and going to ground. Limerick had a really tough day that day, and I'm fairly sure Cottle O'Neill did too. But Patrick Fitzgerald will probably have a few tough afternoons before he has the really good afternoons.
Yeah, he was taken off. I was mixing up the games. Yeah, he was taken off at half-time in that game. He didn't score. So, like you're saying, it could be tough at the start, but I still wouldn't be shocked to see him scoring a goal. And I think that after how last year went, Watford will have a good season. Now, Flash says, we'll come to this a little bit later on, but just I'll read out the comment now. Need Verney's thoughts on the O'Byrne Cup situation with the Offaly manager's interview setting ablaze the whole situation. We'll come back to that later. PWell74, love the Fitzgibbon on a midweek afternoon around Limerick. Class players from different counties lining up together. Eamon Taft came back for Clare around 2004.
Oh.
Did Seamus Darby make a comeback prior to 82?
Yeah, fairly sure. He bad hamstring trouble. I think he was off the panel for a while. Yeah, like I don't know if he was dropped or whether he retired or not. But yeah, Jimmy Coogan it was. Richard says there. Yeah, that scored a goal in 02. Yeah, but Seamus Darby's comeback and subsequent goal, like one of the great stories in the history of the GA, without a doubt.
Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to the next thing, which is the RTE League coverage has been announced. So 28th of January, Mayo against Galway, 18th of February, Derry Meath, 25th of February, Kerry Armagh, and then Saturday, March 4th, Dublin Derry. In the hurling, there's 2 games, Cork against Limerick. That's going to be Saturday, February the 4th, and Limerick Clare. So they've gone with Limerick on both occasions. That's a week after, on February the 11th. Look, obviously, TG Cahir have more of the games as well, so there'll be plenty on TV throughout that period of time, and I can't wait for it. Really, can you?
Do you find sometimes, I mean this with the best will in the world, do you find sometimes that there can be too much on at times? I find that it's too much to keep up with what's actually going on sometimes. The thing with Clubber and Stream Sport and that probably makes it easier to watch a game on your own time or to pay for a game if you want to watch it. But sometimes I find there can be nearly too much going on. I nearly need a break to digest what's after happening and form an opinion on something. But you're obviously clearly more of an intellect than I am.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Actually, no, I'm going to come to it in a little bit later on, that it wasn't until after the show on Monday that I had a chance to watch Tipperary's win over Clare. So we'll talk about that a little bit, because I've sort of expanded my opinion on where Tipperary are at based on that. So next thing to talk about.
So basically, what you're going to say is that Tipperary are in an even better position than you thought they were in.
Tip are back. As I tweeted the other day, are Tipperary back with the options yes or yes, but more yes? The Canon O'Brien Cup was on, I think that was last night. Cork 25 points, UCC 115. The two brothers, Owen Downey and Rob Downey, were the 2 wing backs for Cork. Have we had too many occasions with 2 brothers as wing backs? I suppose Ronan Maher and Paddy Maher would have surely been wing backs together at some stage.
Yeah, wing backs. You would have had Johnny Dooley wing forward and Joe maybe the other wing, or Billy the other wing, or Joe one corner and Billy the other corner. Not too often, no. Isn't it funny though? Because a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but say with Peter and Mike Casey, they were probably marking each other in the back garden, and one probably preferred to score goals more than the other. And Mike obviously was probably wanting to stop Peter, and Peter was wanting to try and beat him. So often that can be the case, that they end up at other ends of the field. But yeah, Paddy and Ronan would definitely be 2 anyway. And yeah, it's a definitely a unique one. And Owen Downey is a fine prospect too, from the bits I've seen of him.
Yeah. So that was on. So Cork are going to be in their first competitive, like you can call the Canon O'Brien competitive if you like. But in terms of the Munster Hurling League, again, if you want to call it competitive, that's on this weekend. Cork are against Limerick. So in terms of like playing against a team, another inter-county team, this will be the first time that either will be out. Now Limerick are only just back from their holiday. I think they were in the Bahamas, maybe somewhere else as well. Plenty of nice photos there in the nice sunny weather for those lads. But I'm just wondering, what will Pat Ryan want from this? Because win, lose or draw, I don't think John Kiley is going to be overly perturbed. Last year in the league, they were beaten well by Cork, but it didn't necessarily matter later on in the year, or certainly even in the first round of Munster when they spanked the Rebels down on Lee side. But what do you think Pat Ryan will want from this? Will he want to win, knowing that Limerick have been away on holidays?
Yeah, I don't think he'll put it to the point where we have to win. These boys are only coming back from holidays or whatever. Maybe again, I hate to say it, but maybe just that bit more steel that maybe we haven't seen in some games, in a lot of games, probably in the last couple of years, and probably a couple of new players to stand up and get more exposure at senior level. I'd say is really what he's going to be looking at, and we'll probably come back to it a bit more, because I believe we have Jack Glynn waiting to come in, one young hurler of the year to a young footballer of the year now. Jack, how are you?
How things are you now?
Yeah, so I better read out the sponsors' notes, which has been joined by UL and Galway footballer Glyn as he looks ahead to the upcoming matches and rivalries across the Electric Ireland GA Higher Education Championships. Through its #First Class Rivals campaign, Electric Ireland will continue to celebrate the unexpected alliances that form between county rivalries as they come together in pursuit of some of the most coveted titles across Camogie and GA. Jack, we were asking Adrian Mullen a little while ago, do you live with many, or do you live with or play with many players that you're kind of competing against when you're in the inter-county stage?
Weirdly enough, I actually live with a house full of hurlers.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm the only footballer in the house. So you've Michael Kiley from Waterford, Mark Rogers from Clare, Sean Toomey from Cork, and Conor Flahy. Obviously, he plays a bit of football with me as well, from Galway. So I'm kind of the odd one out in the house.
Right, okay. So is Conor the only place that you can go to for any bit of backup? And like he's potentially a goalkeeping option for Galway this year, isn't he, in the football?
Yeah, he's gifted at both football and hurling, in fairness to him. So I suppose he is the only one I can go to as well, and it helps he's from Galway as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So when the boys are going for a few pucks down at the park, what do? Are you standing there with your football, Billy No mates?
I tag along and I hit the ball out from behind the goal, so I did.
and like Mark Rogers looks to be one of these players that's really coming. Like you can say the same about Mikey Kiley and the other lads as well. But geez, Rogers seems to have an unbelievable skill set. Yeah,
he's some player in fairness to him. He's a great athlete. They've a good cracker on the house, right? Very competitive house. A lot of everything's almost competition in some stages. But yeah, he's fine in fairness, and he's class earlier.
Is this a case, Jack, of lads doing push-ups in the landing of the house and like everyone else has to join in, or what's the story?
Yeah, Sean does walk around the house with no top on full time anyways.
And so would you all go to the gym together, or do you kind of try and be secretive about what's going on in your own panels around each other?
No, we'd all kind of help each other out, because it's great in that sense, like, because everyone's coming from a different setup, so we'd all kind of share any tips or anything that helps us, and we'll help each other. Like, so if someone's making protein pancakes or something, they throw it on for you as well, so it's handy.
Yeah, and would you get much of a chance to all go out together, or because you're involved with different teams, does it ever really happen?
Rarely. Once in a blue moon now you get a chance to go out. But probably if there's a college game or something, maybe you might go out, and if everyone, I could be caught up or whatever, but you get a few nights anyways throughout the semester. Other than that, like, it's just kind of head down really in the house.
Michael?
You missed the game the other day, Jack, did you? You're carrying a bit of a knock. I think you won the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, we won last night. It was a hard-fought win. You see, we're a very good side. Obviously, we're playing against the conditions as well. It was a horrific day down in Cork. But yeah, I'm carrying a knock on my groin at the moment. Just in around my bone, it's inflamed, so I just need a bit of a break.
It's probably not is it a good or a bad time to be needing a break? Because obviously you want to be playing Sigerson, and the league is only around the corner as well.
Yes, it's the worst time really, like, because I missed Sigerson last year with a broken jaw, and obviously it's unfortunate I've missed the game yesterday and potentially next week due to the grind. So I'm just trying to get back as quick as possible now.
Is it okay to ask how you picked up the broken jaw?
Yeah, it was actually Matty Tierney hit me a shoulder in training, right, and just broken two places here.
I presume it's the sort of case where you're gonna. It could take 5 years, it could take 10 years, but you line them up for a good hit.
I told him as well. It's coming down.
Would you have had to mark David Clifford in training before you got that injury last year?
Wouldn't have really, no, because just with everyone's schedule, really, like you're in training back with intercounty, like, so you're kind of doing pre-season with intercounty. The only chance I would have had play with him or train would just be for the league games, a couple of league games, and you get to see his style of play and stuff. So yeah, that was insightful to say the least.
When you were given the Young Footballer of the Year award at the ceremony last year, did you know beforehand, or was it just complete shock in the moment?
No, I had no clue. I presumed I didn't get it, because I presumed they would have let you know, like, so I was kind of relaxed, and then they said I was fierce taken back, like, but obviously I think the old fellow was more happy than he was over the moon more than I was, like, but it's obviously hugely grateful for receiving the award.
Yeah, what was it like being up on stage with all eyes on you?
Daunting, really, like the caliber of players that are in that room. Like, it's I would have grown up, looking up to the older lads there. Like, so it was some experience to be up on stage and seeing those lads there in the crowd as well. Like,
who are your footballing heroes growing up?
Jesus,
are you going to suck up to the manager here?
No, leave him out. But I suppose, Jesus, to be all the I was growing up, like you do great Galway team there in 1998 and 2001. Like, I remember Dad was when I was young lad in the backyard, he'd be putting me through my phases, like, and he used to be showing me the Jaff Allen shuffle and that, like, so you would look up to those players. Obviously, Michael Meehan, there's so many lads I could name. It would have been largely Galway based, to be honest, like, because you look up to them as heroes, like Michael Donlan and the likes, and obviously you want to replicate what they have done with their careers, like. But yeah.
Was your dad a big influence there for, like, he's taking you out the back? And did you successfully do the Fallon shuffle in a match?
Yeah, I was told to stop doing it because I was doing it too much underage. But yeah, Dad would have been a big driving force. I suppose when I was growing up playing football, like, I would have been playing hurling as well, but it came to the stage at minor when you have to pick, because obviously just wasn't able to do both, and I just ended up going football. And luckily enough, I've had a bit of success so far, and see how we can go now with it.
Michael?
Yeah, you must have got some taste of the big occasion last year, Jack. But I know you had it from your underage career in Croke Park as well. But even the All-Star night, the build up to an All-Ireland final, playing an All-Ireland final. Obviously, the result didn't go your way, but it must give you a massive taste of what you want to happen in your career over the next the goods of the next decade.
Yeah, definitely, because you went from one extreme to the other. Like, would have been playing I suppose when COVID was on in games, there was no one there, and the next thing you're playing in Croke Park, it's a packed out venue, like, and you can't hear anything really, like, it's all like a whistle in your ear, and I remember I think it was the Armagh game, like, the noise, it really hits you, like, and it's so hard to hear, like, even your teammates on the field. And I suppose that was like an experience in itself. Like, it took me a while to adjust to like, the noise, and to block that out, really. I suppose I gained confidence and confidence through that game, and just from that game we didn't really look back after that.
You were playing. Were you captain actually for the All-Ireland final that was played before the COVID final in 2020?
Yeah, when we played Dublin, yeah.
Yeah, like, isn't that like poles apart to what you experienced last year? Like, the contrast must have been unbelievable.
It was crazy, yeah, because even the pitch, like, because I remember when we were playing that time, it was December, it was 4 days or 5 days before Christmas or whatnot, like, and the pitch was a bit, it was rougher than it would be on All-Ireland final day, like, and then you're going from that and to the next time you're out in a packed out venue. It's the step up was crazy, yeah.
Do you think this year, Jack, like, that it'll be difficult to keep the composure and the momentum you had from last year going, or do you think you're set for another big year?
Hopefully, like, the biggest thing, like, would be just to keep consistent in our performances. Like, it's not something like you want to keep looking on what we, the progress we made last year, and instead of looking forward or looking back. So it's kind of really important that we just take steps to go forward this year. So like last year's finished, which as far as anyone's concerned. So we try and make the most of each game. I suppose FD League and onto the National League, and then onto Championship. From that, then.
Well, what's your lasting memory of the All-Ireland final against Kerry last year? Is there anything that sticks in your mind? I
think the dressing room afterwards is the worst thing. It's fine sitting in silence, but just silence after losing like that, it's something that will stick with me for a long time. It's I can't even put into words what it was like. It's like it's just something you just can't get over, really.
Yeah, and like the performance of like the scoring of both Shane Walsh and David Clifford, there's not many players that have ever reached that level that they did on that day.
No, I think it's probably the greatest performance by the two of them. Like it was over and back. Like it's crazy, and the two of them, not often two players can share a stage like that at the top level, like and they didn't. It was, obviously, look, David obviously came up on top of the win, like, but it was close and it's disappointing. Yeah.
How do you find watching Shane with Crokes now? Is that unusual?
It's funny, like, you wouldn't see yourself, leaning towards a Dublin team or any team outside the county, like, but just to see, the Galway player playing with Crokes and that, it's great to see him. He's fine as well, like, in fairness, and it's well deserved.
I presume there's times where you've had to try and shackle him in training. Is there different times like that? And that's, again, like Clifford, it's not easy to do at all.
Oh, big time. He just has that little injection of pace. It's so hard to, you don't know when it's coming, and when it does, you're scrambling then. He's fast there. So.
And just from the people in Galway, I presume, could you understand even maybe, why he was transferring, given the length of, travel? You have to travel up from Limerick to Galway for training, which I'd imagine is tricky. If he's based in Dublin and he's, a bit older and having some knocks, I presume, was that kind of understood or kind of received, in Galway and by ye lads who know what sacrifices he's going through?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like, he's largely based in Dublin now, like, so it's, none of my or anyone's business really what he kind of does with his like that, obviously trekking from Dublin back down to club he's put in a great stint for his club. They actually played against us a few years ago into intermediate final. He was class that day. Like he's been class for Clonberne, and just like, if it's tough on him having to travel down on that. So it's completely understood, really. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, Jack, it's been brilliant to have you on the show, and best of luck for the year, and hopefully we'll talk
again. Thanks very much, lads.
Sure, Jack.
Okay, so great to chat to him.
Bit of a smiling assassin, isn't he? He's a bit of an only got his own scar. Like he'd kill you on the pitch. Like he's a brilliant player.
Yeah, he's excellent. So we were talking about Cork beating UCC. UCC have to play in Maynooth University in the Fitzgibbon Cup next Thursday. This weekend, Cork against Limerick. So Limerick are just back from Florida, Bahamas, that next neck of the woods. John Kiley will probably have a tricky question or two to field on Sunday after the game. We'll go into that more next week whenever he does. You'll be down at that game, won't you?
Yeah, going down to that game. Going to be an interesting one. You asked kind of before Jack jumped on, what will Cork be looking for? I think it's outside of results necessarily. They will obviously, hope to win the game or whatever. They need to unearth a few more players. They need to blood more players. They need to, again, have a better understanding of what their 3 and 6 is going to be, whether that's trialing different lads in those positions or whatever. I think that's all really you learn from these games. I don't think you'd be placing too much stock on them.
No, Pat Ryan was saying ahead of this game that he's trying to rotate, so I'd imagine he'll do that. And he said, obviously we're playing Limerick, the All-Ireland champions. I know they're back from holidays, so I'm not too sure what team they'll be putting out. We're trying to get game time into our squad. The more competitive games we get, the better. But anytime you put on a Cork jersey, you expect to win the match. So I like that. I like that whole attitude that we're not going out thinking, yeah, let's hope we can stick it up to Limerick. We're going out thinking, lads, we're Cork, we're going to win this game, which is more the traditional attitude.
Yeah, well, and he hasn't shirked away from the notion of, what success for you as a Cork manager. Success is winning an All-Ireland within my reign as Cork manager. And he's put that out there fairly quickly, hasn't shirked away from it, hasn't talked about 1 year or 2 year or 3 year plans or anything like that. He just talked about winning an All-Ireland. I think that's the only thing you can do. There's no doubt about, the quality of player that he dealt with at underage level just a couple of years ago. And, some of the experienced players that are there just needs to be meshed together. There's no doubting that they have the ability. I don't doubt that they have the ability. It's just whether, the spine of the defense is a big one for me. And I suppose, it'd be interesting to see what role Patrick Horgan plays. Be interesting to see what role Conor Lahan plays. He did, good year last year before that Galway game. He played that first game against Kerry. Be interesting to see, is Mark Keane able to nail down a place? at wing back. So there's some fascinating questions. From a Limerick point of view, Limerick won this competition last year with, you know, a largely second string outfit, like really largely second string. I remember Richie English getting man of the match in the final against Clare. I think he actually scored a point the same day. And, you know, he hardly saw a minute of championship action thereafter. And that just shows you the strength and depth that they have. Sure, they'll be looking to get, you know, Peter Casey back on the pitch a bit more. Players like that, maybe probably Pat Ryan, who didn't play in the latter stage of the championship last year. Colin O'Neill, as you say, Colin English, Adam English, or Colin Coughlin, I should say, Adam English, lads that they'll be trying to get more and more experience into. Probably someone like Conor Boylan as well. They probably would see him as a starter at different stages this year. So he'd probably be needed in a kind of maybe a more central role than he was last year. So a lot of those guys are going to get game time over the. Listen, it's not over just this weekend or the next weekend. It's throughout the whole stages of the league. Limerick have a tried and tested process where they know what to do to be ready come championship. And I expect it to be kind of a slow burn again this year, and for them to be getting nearing towards that peak when they get to that, you know, start of championship again.
Any chance of Shane O'Brien from Kilmallock getting a look in terms of talent? And if you would say he has the hurling. In terms of size and physicality, you'd say for a guy his age, yeah, he's right in there. I think he'll be going into his second year in the under-20. But because of the options they have up front and everyone's available, it'll be very difficult. I'm sure they'll want to get a look at him some stage, but it will definitely be difficult. PWL 74, Barry Nash was excellent in the Munster Hurling League last year and never dropped his standards thereafter. Just a reference back from ML 89 to Jack Lynn saying he was a good hurler with Turlockmore too before giving it up. Don't think he played with the seniors, but was very good underage. Was on the Galway under-21 hurling panel that won Leinster in 2018. Flash says there's been a lot of talented lads on the Limerick panel the last few years who haven't even been able to get onto matchday squads. Serious level of depth. Very, very true as well. Clare are also going to play Waterford this weekend. We probably hadn't thought about it too much. We're going to see Brian Lohan against Davy Fitzgerald again. Obviously, that was very entertaining during the Clare versus Wexford run the last couple of years, because there's not a whole lot of love lost between the two of them in recent times. But I was just saying to you beforehand, it's 17 years since they last played together on a Clare team in championship. The 2006 All-Ireland semi-final defeat to Kilkenny. But, you know, this was Kilkenny at their peak, and they gave them a decent run of it that day. 17 years, a lot can change in a week, never mind 17 years.
Yeah, it's mad. I think there was some kind of peace made between them in the last year or 18 months, I think. You know, relative peace to you know, the Barney that they were having for a long, long time. I hadn't thought about the fact, I honestly hadn't, and maybe I'd forgotten the fact that they would meet in the Munster Championship again. I'd say Brian Lohan, who's a very no nonsense, no fuss character, would be sick of, you know, in a way, like, I mean this in the nicest way, sick of the sight of Davy. Like, it's almost like someone that he just can't get away from. But it's going to be interesting. Clare were probably, you know, disappointed against Tip at the weekend. Tip did have the benefit of a game under their belt, and there was probably a lot of new faces playing for Clare and a pretty.
Oh, they do play us down, run us down. Yeah.
You watch back more of the game as well, Shane. I want to ask you about Eamon Foodie and goals. Like Eibhear Quilligan is a good keeper. Don't get me wrong, but maybe prone to the odd mistake that could cost you in a big game. What was Foodie like? I know he actually displaced Pat Kelly, who was Clare's All-Ireland winning keeper in 2013. He would have displaced him at club level. So, and I heard he made some pretty impressive saves, and from the few highlights I saw, he looked decent enough. Is there chance of, you know, proper competition for that goalkeeping spot in Clare?
I think there's definitely a chance of a competition. Like, he did quite well. He saved a great save from Alan Tynan earlier in the game. Tynan needed to put that low below him and give him no chance, but he made a great save nonetheless. Now, it was put at his Hurley holding side, so the boss was where the ball was coming to. Still did really well. Don't want to play it down. Gerard O'Connor got in for a 1-on-1 chance, hit it at the keeper. Keeper did well, but at the same time, if it goes in, it's a howler. So you have to say that he did what was asked of him. Pretty sure, I can't remember any massive mistakes in the game at all. So I would come away from it thinking he did pretty good. Paquet asks, Shane, when you get to it on Tip, can we get your thoughts on what, if any, improvements have been made in terms of athleticism and fitness in the squad? No real improvements needed in terms of skill. I mean, I couldn't agree with that last sentence anymore. Now, for me, look, Tipperary worked the ball between the lines really, really well in this game. I mean, who would have seen Seamus Kennedy playing as a Roman wing forward? I don't think you would have expected it. I don't think I would have expected it. But what you've got there is a guy who's probably 6'2" at a minimum, who's one of the best athletes on the panel. Like, you remember back in the 2019 All-Ireland, the last kind of 5 minutes of the game, he's just herring away from players up the field, just burning lads with his pace. He's obviously got that football and intellect as well from playing there with Clonmel Commercials. So he's really good at foraging for the ball. He's really good at getting onto it. And then he's very good at soloing up the field at pace and having that patience to find somebody around him. So he was really good at doing that. And, you know, as they say in rugby, as we talked about before, with Alan Tynan, he's able to wait until he has the man fixed, till he has the man committed before popping it off. Because one of my big bugbears is someone hand passing the ball to a guy, and the guy who has just been shadowing or tackling him is now in a position to get to the other guy because he didn't wait and draw him to him enough to release the next guy. So he did that really well. I thought Conor Stapleton was very good midfield. I thought Cadell was good midfield, even though before I said he's a half-back. But now the Tipperary have a bit more of a solid setup and players are starting to flood the middle a little bit more. You're not asking these players who are playing midfield to run 70 yards in different directions all the time because you're so exposed at the back. So they were positives. Breen very good at full back. Imagine if we had that idea before. Brian O'Mara, very good centre back, very physical.
Stapleton slams every Tipperary management for the last 5 years, including a Tipperary management that won an All-Ireland in 2019.
Stapleton slams all at all times. Do you know who was brilliant as well that people probably would have come away when some people would have said it, but Gearóid O'Connor at centre forward, you know, you've seen him for UL there, especially last season. He was centre forward, and it's not like that he scored a huge amount from play. He got 1 point from play, but the amount of times he got on the ball, he's about 6'4", bursting lads out of his way, mostly hit the frees really well. There's more out of to come from Jake Morris. He won a couple of penalties. You could say one of them was soft. Got a point from play. On another day, he scores 1-4. Sean Ryan, excellent corner forward, 1-1. Mark Keogh, very disappointing performance, but there's more in him. But overall, I would say a lot of good there from Tipperary and signs of modern hurling, which is, you know, do I ask for much? Just a little bit of modern hurling.
The ability of Tipperary folk, namely yourself, to run away on the back of one performance is unprecedented, really. It's almost like the Waterford game the previous week never happened.
Yeah, no, they were poor, and I did say that at the time, and I see there Cadell good. He was hooked. I mean, he was taken off, but that doesn't mean that. And he was more good in the first half. So to be fair, I should temper that a little bit and say he had a very good first half. What's this? That's coming from a Limerick man, Shane. I'm not sure what point he must have made before that. Yeah. O'Connor was a rookie, small centre back. Was a rookie.
A rookier. Never heard of it before, but Paddy Stapleton's brother slams previous Tip managers. There you go. That's all you need to know.
Anyway, so that's Tipperary, but we're talking more about Clare and Waterford. What do you think here? Like, Clare obviously had a very good year last year, but the way it finished up with the semi-final hammering against Kilkenny, I think they probably just need something for confidence and belief to get going again here.
Yeah, they've Adrian O'Brien in doing the S&C now, who's involved with Ballier and Finbar.
You mean Shane O'Brien, who we just talked about from Kilmallock, his father?
Didn't realise that.
No,
didn't realise that. That could be fascinating. That could be fascinating in like that.
Well, it's like Aaron Cunningham and his father, Jerry Cunningham, involved in Limerick. involved in Limerick.
Yeah. That's gas. Yeah. I wonder if there are much conversations around the dinner table about, listen, in a couple of years' time, we might be coming up against each other. But that the crossover between Clare and Limerick is fascinating. You obviously have Niall and Ollie Moran's brother James involved in the backroom team with Clare as well. He's like one of the main coaches under Brian Lohan. That's fascinating. I didn't realize he was his dad. But Clare obviously had, you know, from the high of, you know, a brilliant Munster round robin campaign and drawn with Limerick in that, and then pushing Limerick so close to, you know, it was a low against Wexford, but they were still able to get over it, and you're thinking they're going to raise it for Kilkenny again. They just weren't able to raise it. So it's going to be fascinating to see whether that leaves any scars on them. Obviously, John Conlon was missing that day, so there's a bit of a caveat to it. Need to talk a small bit about Waterford as well, and the fact that Waterford are not going to have home advantage for Munster Championship games, which, like, there's no point in saying any different. Like, this is a really, really big deal. So they missed out in 2019 when in Derek McGrath's last year, 2018, I should say. In Derek McGrath's last year, they ended up playing definitely in Thurles one day anyway. I think did they play Tip in Limerick as well? So like you'd have to say that's a huge blow for Davy before he starts. I know like home games don't guarantee you wins or anything like that, but there is that bit of home comfort to it, whereas now they're on the road for 4 games. And it's disappointing from the point of view of I'm sure any development work that they were hoping to do, they didn't think they were going to miss out on having home games in 2018 and home games in 23, and it had an effect in 2018, and it could have a pretty bad effect in 2023 as well.
I wonder how much of it is down to building costs and delays in terms of trying to get funds together. Because you would have thought they'd try to get it. I mean, when was the last game played at Walsh Park? It was probably the county final, was it? Maybe there was some other games played at different stages since.
Kilruane and Ballygunner definitely played in Walsh Park as well, yeah.
Yeah, geez, do you remember 2019 when they got absolutely hammered? It was a 224 to 10 points. They lost at home to Limerick on that scorching hot day. Now it's a different team now than it was then. You'd certainly imagine, even if last year wasn't brilliant. Few comments coming in here. Interested to see how Clare will be ref this year. Any ref watching them on TV last year will have picked up on some of their off the ball antics. And River Power says, Clare off the ball antics. You really are a Limerick man. Jesus lads, I've just tuned in. What have you done to yourselves? Madness. Well, I had to shave the beard off because I lost that quiz against Verney just before Christmas. Saint is buzzing. Wonder if the beard will stay off now as a lucky omen. No, I didn't. Sure, look, I had a full beard when the match was played there the other day. Definitely won't be sticking with this. 2018, Waterford had the world of injuries. In fairness, they certainly did. Jays, O'Sullivan versus Williams playing in the snooker, not bad. Well, look, stick with us for a while and then tip over to the snooker.
Did you see Mark Williams with the Wasp the other night? No,
I did, yeah.
He's some character. He managed, even just some of his facial expressions and noises that he makes, and that underarm stroke that he has that he invented himself. He's some player.
Yeah, we had the home advantage was no help, says ML89 at all when they had it. They have an awful record at home. Did they win a home game the last few years, bar the Tip game? But everyone beat Tip. No need for it, ML89, no need for it. Year 4 for Low and huge year. That's when the second half of the panel get tetchy if they're not being picked and the team don't win. So, yeah. Okay, right, let's talk about the next thing, which is the Harty Cup quarter-final results. I'll go through the results and you might give a bit of background. Yep. So, CBS Thurles beat St. Coleman's College 116 to 17 points. Cashel Community School had a goal to spare against CBC Cork 113 to 13. Artskull Reach 122. Our Ladies Templemore 117. And Middletown CBS 215. De La Salle College 16 points.
I'm sure you'd be happy to have 2 Tipperary teams in the Harty semi-final. Obviously, it would have been better if Our Ladies had gotten through as well. But from times there in recent years when Tip maybe had been struggling and there was more of a Limerick emphasis, shall we say, great to have 2 teams in the last 4.
Yeah, okay, for sure. And so the semi-finals are going to be Cashel against Artskull and Middletown against Thurles. So what did you want to talk about next? Was it Sean Kelly's vision?
Yeah, no, I tell you what, just obviously the All-Ireland junior and intermediate club finals are on in Croke Park at the weekend. And to me, it's one of the best initiatives and the best things that's happened in the GAA in the last 20 years. And I actually just did a piece for the programme at the weekend, and just throughout my research, just was looking back at some of the things Sean Kelly had said about it. And he was obviously the one who helped to bring maybe rugby and soccer into Croke Park at the time. But I would put this up there, this is for clubs on the ground and for, basically every club and every team, unless it's, the second team or the third team within one club has a chance of getting to Croke Park. And it's made Croke Park, these championships have made Croke Park accessible to club players, not just senior players. And I think it's great. And he was just talking about it. He just said, when I became Uachtaráin, I proposed there should be junior and intermediate championships at provincial and on Ireland level, but more importantly, that they be played in Croke Park. It has worked out bigger and much better than what I would have thought, because for any club, it's an odyssey. And he obviously had a bit of an odyssey to Croke Park with his own club, Kilcummin, a couple of years ago when they won the All-Ireland intermediate football. And then just thinking through, like, Shane, off the top of your head, I have a couple and I have them in the doc as well. Like, success stories that have come from the All-Ireland stages. Like, Bennett's Bridge won junior one year, intermediate the next year, and competed in the Kilkenny county final, senior final, like 3 years later. Clara won All-Ireland Intermediate in 13, the early stages of 13, and then won a Kilkenny Senior Championship later that year. It's some building block for teams, like, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing to have for clubs and a way of getting more exposure, getting more games, playing the cream of the crop in other counties. If you do get out of your county, I think it's been a fantastic development.
Yeah, Nagale, they won the All-Ireland Junior Football, the Kerry side, a couple of years ago. Are they gone up to senior now at this stage? I'm not entirely sure. Someone might remember. Someone might know there.
I don't know if they are senior. It's so tight in Kerry with only 8 teams. I'm actually not sure of that.
Yeah, I'd say Killadangan winning that All-Ireland back around 2008. That was huge for them, and they're kicking on. Question to Verney, is the Offaly Colleges team all the Offaly schools like Tullamore, Banagher, Brendan's, etc.?
Definitely Brendan's, Kilcormac, which has like Adam Screeney and a good few of the Kilcormac lads, and Banagher. But Tullamore definitely didn't play one of their earlier games. I think Tullamore players were released to play against Peter. So it's interesting. Coláiste Colm and Tullamore are going hard for the Leinster Colleges B. So I don't think they were available for one game, but I think they were available for the last one and will be available going forward. And as I said, it would be great if Offaly schools, the first time this has happened, if they were able to get to a Leinster final and potentially win it.
Yeah, Black White 85 says they are senior. I presume he's referring to Nagale. River Power, is it a good or a bad thing that Limerick are clear that so many of their lads are on the Ardscoil Reach? I'd imagine it's great for the Clare lads and holding Limerick lads back from getting experience. So get your comments in and let us know on that one.
Just on that, Shane, I know Eamon Cregan has been making a really concerted effort in the last 12 to 18 months to try and get Harty Cup hurling back into Castletroy College, which would be nearly, like, should be a big bed and a big area where a lot of guys, but then you see a lot of Limerick lads Ardscoil Reach has drawn a lot of lads away that want to hurl. So I think Cregan is making a concerted effort to try and get hurling really. That's not to say it's not moving within there, but to get them back up to, Harty Cup level at senior level.
Wasn't Nash and the Morrisseys, weren't they in Castletroy?
They should have been anyway. Ahan is only out to
I think they were
from Castletroy. Yeah.
Okay, so the All-Ireland clubs, like you've talked about it there, Sean Kelly, talking about getting those All-Ireland finals to Croke Park at the different levels. By the way, I don't think any All-Ireland semi-finals should be there, or any Leinster provincial semi-finals. I think it took away a lot from them in recent times because there was no atmosphere. Like Ballygunner against Ballyhale, what an atmosphere that would have had in Wexford Park. There's any amount of different grounds you could look at, but yeah, I think even watching the All-Ireland Club semi-finals of football last weekend, Kilmacud, those games had great finales, but it still felt like there was nobody there. Monalina against Turin in the intermediate All-Ireland Club hurling final this weekend, and Ballygliblin will meet Easky. So we could have Sligo and Mayo All-Ireland hurling champions this weekend, which would be quite something. But we'll just start off with Monalina and Turin. So not so long ago on Tipcast, I spoke with, this was just after the Munster final when Monalina of Limerick had beaten Ross Gray of Tipperary in the Munster final. Now, obviously, they've gone on and won an All-Ireland semi-final since. But this was Owen Brislan just talking about the Monalina lads.
People don't know outside of Limerick, people don't know how good Monalina are. Do you know what I mean? They don't know the names. They don't know Marco Dwyer. Marco Dwyer is a serious player. It's like he's 24 years of age. He's surely going to get a call in with Limerick. He has to. Like, he's outstanding for us all year long. Donegal Dálaigh is a Limerick 20 there last year and probably hasn't been playing. It's got 2 points the other day, but wasn't really. He's been very, very good for us in earlier games, and the last 2 games he's been threatening a lot, but there's so much more in him. I said to you the other day, Ronan Lyons, who picked up Georgie, like Ronan was a 2-time All-Star minor cornerback. Like, he's a serious operator now. Like, he should have been on the Limerick 20 team last year, only pulled his hamstring. Like, Limerick really missed him in All-Ireland under 20 last year. Joe Fitz, middle of the field, 18 years of age, really smart kid. 725 points this season. I didn't think it's possible to get 725 points, but so like he's doing an artificial intelligence course there for the Stripes and Collisons. Like he was doing an exam at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Like, these guys there was I think 11 on the panel doing exams Monday morning, and they're all in there. Do you know? There's incredible. Like, and just really down to earth, really smart guys, and very easy coach, very receptive, and like you show them video clips there of themselves or opposition to just get it.
The biggest thing to take from that video is the beard has to come back.
725 points is some going. I was going to say who's your man on the left of the video. He actually talked to me about Fitzgerald as well. He was talking about the difference between Brazan was talking about the difference between S&C through the ages with Limerick and compared to Tipperary, and he basically said that Joe Fitz was ready to play adult hurling the minute he came out of under 17 because of the conditioning he had done. And he just said, he looks like a hurler. I said, and he has all his S&C done to be a hurler, not to be a bodybuilder, shall we say. He doesn't have, you don't need to have big arms or whatever. He's robust, but he's athletic and mobile and fit and strong as well. And it's funny, I have a piece in Saturday's Independent with Carbro Carolon, who's the S&C with Limerick, was the S&C with Limerick last year. It was like S&C with Tip in 19 as well. And he did an interesting comparison, he said, between when he was with Tipperary and when he's with Limerick. He said the players that we're getting with Limerick now coming through the ranks are, ready to challenge or are already challenging, the Garrod Hegartys in terms of metrics they're going to hit physically, because they've gone through the whole underage academy like that. But he said in Tipperary, he said the young lads that were coming through just didn't have that same level compared to some other counties when they were, and they weren't. And he said Pádraig and Brendan were still doing better scores than a lot of these guys, even, and that's probably a sign of a failing system. And hopefully that system within Tipperary has been fixed. And Brazan has said it as well a couple of times that Limerick are just a step ahead of a lot of counties in what they have done. In fairness, Tipper on the right road now again. I'd say Offaly are doing the right things again, but it's almost like a legacy thing. It takes a while for that to catch back up. But that's going to be a fascinating final. Just on the Toreen Eastkey point of view as well, no Connacht team outside of Galway has ever won an All-Ireland club final. There's been the one or two, I think, beaten in finals, but none of them have ever won an All-Ireland club title in Croke Park. And I think, one of our viewers there saying that might be a bit of a doubt to Marco Dwyer, who's one of Molin's best players. Toreen have a couple of injury doubts as well. But I think Toreen will give Monaghan lots of this, I have to say. I think they'll give him lots of it. That's one of the games of the weekend now for me, and a difficult game to call. And might just be edging towards Toreen ever so slightly.
Yeah, the two Ians. Yeah, I'd be slightly going towards Monaghan, but again, the fitness of that key player is a big one. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by OurGame.ie. Obviously this is OurGame.ie, but we're brought to you by OurStore.ie, where you can get all the official merchandise of the site there. So go to OurStore.ie. More comments are coming in here. Galway teams have a terrible record in intermediate and junior level too. Lads, is there too young an age for S&C? Should it be more skills based and weights gym based at that age? I would say when you're very, very young, it'd be body weight stuff anyway. I'm wondering at what stage it would come to actually lifting weights.
Yeah, actual lifting weights probably wouldn't come till 16 or 17. Now, when I was in college, that myth was nearly there that you shouldn't be touching weights until you're nearly out of your teens. That was what it would have been said. But a lot of it is, you see them with broom handles. It's getting the correct squat technique. It's been able to squat without any weight. It's getting the correct deadlift technique with little or no weight really, but just activating your glutes and activating your hamstrings. Probably be a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups. Owen Brazan mentioned a type of training that they're doing, and I looked it up after. It's called zoo training, and it's all body weight exercises. This is what Monaleen are doing. It's all body weight exercise that involves a lot of movement as well. So it's, what would you call them? They're like inchworms and kind of like that spider kind of movement where you're actually moving along the ground. It's all different types of movements that activate different muscles. But you're not necessarily going lifting.
So you're saying the way Spider-Man goes up the wall, sort of like that, you're doing that across the ground. We used to do that as well.
Yeah, you're doing that across the ground and different types of movements. And it's an interesting one. I just encourage anyone that's interested in coaching or been around teams, zoo training. He couldn't have sung its praises enough.
Yeah, we definitely did bits of that where you're like going forward and then you're doing it backwards, and it can be tough going if you haven't been used to working out those muscles. And next thing on the menu,
bog, Shane, like the bog. I remember going to the bog and helping to turn, I think, the guts of about a plot of turf about 3 days before we played under-21 championship Offaly. Needless to say, I got this after about 25 minutes.
It sounds like you have performance insurance for every day that you were scandalous. What was your excuse for the Milan one?
I went to Oxygen the week before. And
Fair today.
yeah. you know, listen, you know yourself.
But you don't even drink, like.
Yeah, we didn't sleep for a weekend.
Yeah. With Peter Casey to come back and Lynch to come back fully fit, David Reedy, Cathal O'Neill and Boylan, they're improving year on year. No problem, this is to do with weights. No problem once they have the right techniques, then gradually add weight and work their way up slowly while keeping proper technique.
Yep.
Generally, getting the techniques right first with free rates, fundamental movement at a younger age helps as well. So Easky, so obviously they're trying to get the job done against Ballygiblin this weekend. Mark Keane, who has big fish to fry with Cork this year. Be some boost to him and his club if they could win the All-Ireland this year after going pretty close last year. Now, I was just wondering, has the Sligo team ever won an All-Ireland at this stage at any level before? You've kind of answered that already. But Nicky Rackard titles in 2008 and 2019. So it's not totally alien to these teams.
No, they won the record in 19, as you say, and I think they won it from Division 3B, which is like the 6th tier of the league. I think they're in 2B now. Easky, which is more of a surfing town, which I had someone from Sligo on to me nearly slagging me about that, but it is their pitch is like right on the coast, and it would be, you know, a really well-known surfing town. They're hoping to ride the waves at Croke Park this weekend, Shane. Do you like that one?
I do, yeah. Do you know Easky were in an All-Ireland final in junior level in football a couple of years ago? They lost to Beaufort of Kerry. I wonder how many of the same players are playing. But they were beaten pretty heftily on that day. But at least they'll know this stage of a competition. Nice comment in here from Bert Giggles, Ash Tiger. Shane looks even more odd without the beard.
Yeah, don't say he looks odd. Even more odd that's my type of slagging now.
Yeah, a touch of class there from Bert Giggles, Ash Tiger. Yeah, really, really appreciate that. Let's do a quick power rankings for the year ahead in terms of hurling. I'm sure we'll agree with everything here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll make this handy by putting tip in number 1, yeah?
Where they go now will be interesting, I have to say, but it certainly won't be number 1.
Jesus, Verney, come on.
I'm just thinking tip.
Like they're back.
Just thinking, are they in
the top 11?
Are they in the top 7? I'm wondering.
Okay, I'm going to just spare a bit of the medicine and just put in Limerick as number 1, yeah?
Yeah, what do we think of 2? Kilkenny are obviously 3 in a row Leinster champions, beaten in the
have to put them in.
by a score. New manager. Yeah, well, they're obviously missing a couple of players. They're missing 2 starters from the All-Ireland final in Mikey Carey and Conor Brown. Richie Lahey is away. James Maher is away. All the elder statesmen are staying on board. No sign of a Colin Fennelly return. Yeah, I'll put it this way, but I think Galway will just about do better than Kilkenny this year. But
wow.
Yeah, well, I kind of said
Galway, who regularly dung the course against Kilkenny. Am I wrong?
I think we both had Galway for winning Leinster this year, I think, in our predictions at the start of the year. But I think Kilkenny do have to be number 2. The big thing there now next is Galway have an easier path, you would say, to the latter stages of the All-Ireland final from the province that they're coming from, just because it's like Munster is unbelievably cutthroat. But, you know, are they the 3rd best team in the country, or is, you know, a Waterford or a Cork or a Clare? And Adrian McGrath's just going to get on to me here now and say that because I've written Clare off and think they're going to potentially come 5th in Munster. That opinion obviously might change as the season goes on. That's just my opinion at the start of the year.
Okay, so we're agreeing that partly by dint of their route that Galway have to be in at number 3 here.
Yeah, well, I think so. Like, and look how close they pushed Limerick last year as well. Like,
yeah,
don't know if they're a number 3 team now. Don't know if they're a number 3 team now. But listen, well,
look, the reason that I think we may end up putting them there is because who do we guarantee will come out of Munster? I mean, at such a bare pitch, you couldn't guarantee anyone would come out. But look, Limerick are coming out, yeah?
Limerick are coming out, yeah.
Of course. So with any degree of certainty, who else is definitely coming out of Munster? So that means
Waterford, like I'd Waterford up high, and now they've no home games, and like that does not help. That it just is not an advantage in any way. It's a disadvantage, and it probably puts them down the pecking order a tiny bit.
Right. So Kilkenny and Galway are both definitely coming out of Leinster, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that Wexford are definitely coming out? Obviously, Dublin, who've had, I think, 10 retirees over the winter.
Still think they'll get a bounce out of Micheál Donoghue.
Yeah, they possibly will. So, but the only two definites, as we see it now, look, we're trying to do this quickly by being a little bit dismissive. By
Yeah,
saying
I'll go with you there. I know what you're saying, yeah.
So that's why I think we're just going to have to nearly put them second and third, because there's nobody outside of Limerick that we're feeling like we're guaranteed they're going to go through Munster.
Yeah, no, okay. I'll go with that, yeah.
Okay, so I typed Waterford in there. I don't know if I believe it as I'm typing it in there, but I find it hard to believe that they're as bad as last summer suggested.
I'd be the same as well, Shane. I think there's serious potential there. Even like the likes of Patrick Fitzgerald coming into a forward line that already includes, let's say, Desi Hutchinson, potentially Austin Gleeson, potentially a Pádraig Mahoney kind of returning to that equation as well. Still no word on whether Stephen O'Keefe is coming back in. That would have a bit of a bearing on where I'd be putting them. I rate Waterford, and I think you do too. But can we viably put them at number 4 based on last year, based on the first week of April onwards?
Yeah, you make a fair point. So I have just adjusted that. I think this is what you're trying to say to me, isn't it?
most definitely not. I think my predictions for what will happen, like what might happen in Munster this year with Clare, should not detract the fact that they should be high up. Like, and not been smart. If Clare are number 4, you have last year's 4 All-Ireland semi-finalists there. You have a team that ran Limerick to within an inch of their, within an inch of their Munster title, at number 4, and I think that's kind of fair enough to be,
Yeah, the height they got to last year. If Leinster wasn't so comparatively easy, I'm not saying it's easy, but comparatively, you'd probably have Clare above Galway here, because Galway, it was only really against Limerick that they really showed a huge level of performance throughout the entirety of last year's championship, whereas Clare did it a couple of days in Munster, a number of days, and that performance in the Munster final was higher than what we've seen from everyone bar Kilkenny in defeat to Limerick. So that's why I probably have them up a little bit higher if Galway had to be in Munster, for example.
Yeah, I'd go with that there. Yeah, I'd go with that as well. Yeah,
Adrian McGrath, Clare native, of course. Limerick's team is not changing. They have really talented young players like O'Neill, English, and so on. But if they don't get selected, they stop developing. P.S. Galway me arse, FFS. Everyone knows what FFS means. So
yeah, I think Cathal O'Neill, Adam English, Colin Coughlin, and those have been dealt with quite well, to be honest with you. I think they've gotten a decent bit of game time, and I think they'll get a fair bit more this year. But like, you're not just going to throw them. I don't think you're just going to change the starting 15 just for the sake of it, unless, you know what I mean. Like, unless lads are, it's the same as Tipperary a couple of years ago. Yeah, there's loads of other lads there with underage success, but you have to judge what you're seeing, I think, on the training field. I know, and there will be bits and pieces of changes. They'll all have a bigger role again this year. Like, Cathal O'Neill came on the All-Ireland final last year. Do you know what I mean?
He's a fair detail too. This is a good point from A Sully 180. Aidan McCarthy coming back properly for Clare this year. Mark Rogers flying. Clare will get out of Munster. No problem.
No problem.
Wow.
I was going with you there, Andrew, until the last 2 words. There won't be. I think Limerick won't even be getting out of Munster. No problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Clare qualified for the Munster final, top of the table. Waterford will be playing with 5 forwards without Conor MacDonald or Shane O'Donnell, with exceptional ball winning, I should say. But they do have Pat Fitzgerald, they do have Desi Hutchinson, they have Ozzie Gleeson, who may or may not be in the forwards in this coming season. He was against Tipperary last week in that Munster hurling game, so maybe that's a portent of things to come. As a Limerick man, I'm happy not to go to Walsh Park with a hyped up Davy on the sideline having his first go at this Limerick team, and then there's a bit of niggle between the two teams ever before Davy says PW74. Wouldn't expect to see O'Neill, Coughlin and English during the league, all involved in Fitzgibbon Cup. What is the criteria here? Is it who will win? No, to me it's a multitude of things. There's no exact way you can do it. It's like, what has their history been? Who's got players coming back? Who's changed managements, and therefore what do we think will happen this year, head to head, and also the fact that they're in different provinces that skew it slightly. So I don't think you can have any hard and fast criteria. Just to finish out his question, is it what the top 10 or who's most likely to make the final versus Limerick? It's all of those things, really. It's very hard to be hard and fast with this.
It's kind of like the All-Stars, but probably it's probably even more subjective, you'd have to say, because it's potential routes to where they're going to get to this year. It's who we think is going to come out of 2 provinces this year. It's what manager we think is good. The teams are going to get a bounce out of this year, etc., etc. So there's a lot of variables to it, and not being smart, there's a lot of opinion in it as well.
Yeah, and it's not like if every team played each other twice home and away over the course of the season, it'd be far easier to do this, but we can't. We have to work with it. So we're happy enough with that top 4. Who do you think is number 5?
Number 5, as I said, I couldn't stand over Waterford at 5, but it's funny. I have a team at number 4 that I don't think will get out, that I think potentially mightn't get out of Munster, but I am placing a lot of stock in Munster and the competitiveness of it. I probably have Waterford ahead of Cork.
Even though
I'm okay with that. They were beaten in an All-Ireland quarter-final by a score. They have a new manager in who's got a really good proven pedigree at underage level, and it's a good pedigree obviously when he was involved with the setup before. God, you've just gone and filled them all in. You've just gone and done it all.
Do you object?
I can't believe you're after putting Tipperary in at 8 voluntarily without your arm being twisted.
I don't think they're the 8th best team, and I think Tipperary will get out of Munster this year. But it's very hard for me to make a real case that's going to stand up at the moment. And I think Tipperary would beat Wexford in the championship, certainly. I think Tipperary could beat most of the teams ahead of them in that table. Most of them, not all of them. Obviously, Tipperary are 2024 All-Ireland champions. That obviously goes without saying.
If Tip played Wexford, how would that go?
Tip would win.
See, the thing on that is that you're based on last year. Tip flunked Munster. Waterford got out of Leinster and put up a good show in All-Ireland quarter-final, and were there within 5 minutes of winning an All-Ireland quarter-final, shall we say. So I think you're placing some stock in last year, you're placing some stock in this year, and falling in the middle. So I'm okay to have Tip behind Wexford at the moment.
Yeah.
At this moment in time.
Yeah. So is there anything you object to there? Like Dublin are down pretty far based on what you're saying about getting a kick from Donoghue.
Yeah, they might get a kick from Donoghue. They still mightn't get out of Leinster. But like last year was really disappointing, Shane, when when they beat Wexford down in Wexford Park and still didn't manage to get out of Leinster. Like they were on the front foot then. They were in a really good position and couldn't kick on. And if you look at it, there's going to be no Chris Crummey, who is one of the heartbeats, I would say, of that Dublin squad. It's going to be no Liam Rush, no Keane Callahan, who was vice captain last year.
No Mark Shoothead, no Rian McBride. There's about 10 different lads. But I'll tell you, I watched them last weekend and I was pretty impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of good Crokes players coming into that, but a lot of good Crokes players that, probably haven't played a huge amount of county hurling outside of maybe Fergal Whiteley or that. So I'd be happy enough. Ronan Hayes. I'd be happy enough. But I'd be expecting more than that. I'm expecting another good handful of lads to go in, but a lot of them wouldn't have played senior intercounty before. Let's just see. Limerick, Kilkenny, Galway, Clare, Cork, Waterford, Wexford, Tip, Dublin, Westmeath and Antrim.
Like Westmeath stayed up in Leinster last year, so that's why they're ahead of Antrim, who've bounced back after winning the Joe McDonough. I think it's fair to have Westmeath ahead.
Yeah, Antrim are only coming back up. I think that's okay to say.
And I see a few people saying Antrim ahead of Dublin, but how did that work out when they last met in the Leinster Championship a couple of years ago?
I tipped Antrim to give Dublin a good run, and they were beaten by about 20 points in Park Talton.
Yeah, which I had told you would happen. So we're happy enough? That's our top 11. Okay, we'll just run through it one more time. Keep the comments coming in. Well, Cassius King says, Tip to finish bottom of Munster again. You heard it here first. So our top 11 is Limerick, Kilkenny, Galway, Clare, Cork, Waterford, Wexford, Tip, Dublin, Westmeath and Antrim. That's not necessarily saying that we think that number 1 would always beat 2 and 6 would beat 7 and so on. But just adding everything in together, that's kind of what we've come to. So it's quiz time, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a quick quiz. There's actually 6 questions in total, and no individual answers, no Googling, no nothing. Just 6 questions. Right, put all 6 answers, 1 to 6, down on a sheet, down on your answer, and write it in. Okay. Just one county has beaten Limerick in championship during their 4 All-Ireland winning years. That's 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Who is it, and when was it? So that's the first question. So just one team has beaten Limerick in the 4 years that they've won their 4 All-Ireland titles. Perfect. Next question ties into that a little. This is an all a Limerick-based quiz, just in case we didn't know. How many championship games has John Kiley lost as Limerick senior hurling manager? So how many championship games has John Kiley lost as Limerick senior hurling manager? Next question is a John Kiley-based question as well. John Kiley hails from which club? Next one, and I appreciate they're coming thick and fast. I'll fly through them at the end. Who is the only Limerick starter from last year's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Final without an All-Star?
As in, he's in his career, he's ever won one.
Doesn't have an All-Star. So who's the only Limerick starter from last year's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Final without an All-Star? Next question is, how many All-Stars does Dan Morrissey have? And the last one, up-and-coming star Cathal O'Neill hails from which club? It's a tough one. There's no point in saying any different. I fly back through the questions really quickly here. So just one county has beaten Limerick in championship during their 4 All-Ireland winning years under John Kiley, obviously. Who is it, and when was it? How many championship games has John Kiley lost as Limerick senior hurling manager? John Kiley hails from which club? Which is the only Limerick starter from last year's All-Ireland final without an All-Star? How many All-Stars does Dan Morrissey have? An up-and-coming star Cathal O'Neill hails from which club?
Okay, well, I give you my answers because people are flying in with their answers there at the moment.
Go for it.
Okay, so Tipperary 2019, that was the one game that they lost during the All-Ireland winning seasons.
No. They didn't win it in 2019.
Oh, crap. Oh, sorry, Tip one. How could I forget?
Unbelievable. Same as you could forget the All-Ireland minor final result. That's how.
God, that was a brain fart. So 5 was the answer to the next question. 5 games he's lost as championship manager. As Limerick manager. 6, damn it.
So just to go back to that first question, Clare beat them in 2018 in that final Munster round robin game. So
11 points.
That was their one defeat in 2018. They were beaten twice in 2017. I think it was it Clare and Kilkenny. They were beaten 3 times in 2019. So they were beaten by Cork, Tip, and Kilkenny in 2019.
Okay.
How did you forget that? Oh, you did. You remembered the Tip defeat.
It was the Kilkenny game. It was the Kilkenny one that I forgot.
Yeah.
Galbally,
yeah. Good man. Yeah. Next one.
Does Seamus Flanagan not have an All-Star?
He does, yeah.
Does he?
Yeah.
Mike Casey?
Mike Casey, yeah.
Okay. Was 3 the answer to the Dan Morrissey All-Stars?
2.
2, okay. And Crecora Manstrack or something like that is the name of...
Crecora will do me, yeah.
Okay. But how do you pronounce the second part? Give it a go.
Monaster, yeah. It's monastery Osquaig, I think.
Okay. Fergus Butler, he has them all right there, does he? He does indeed.
He does, yeah. Good.
Yeah.
No. He has Dan Morrissey down for 3 All-Stars.
Right. Okay.
Fergus, so close, but so far.
Yeah, Clare in 18-4, Galbally, no, wrong.
4.
Kilkenny, Gary Spillane, Sully will go away. River Power, Kilkenny 2019, no, same, got it wrong as well, same as myself. Did he?
Yeah, no, once he had Kilkenny 2019, that was it. I'm delighted. A load of people had like 5 out of 6, but just got the wrong way around or whatever. The 3 Dan Morrissey All-Stars is a bit of a killer because all the other ones were 100%. They were just one off.
Yeah, and then we have a Who Am I? So do you want to do this or will I read this?
Yeah, you fire away. I actually don't know who it is. So
no, neither. Okay, so I scored. Who am I? I scored the winning goal that beat Kerry to win a Munster Under-21 football championship. I started in the last 3 Munster hurling finals that my county won. Sorry, I started in the last Munster hurling final that my county won. Sorry, there was a typo there. I've lost 3 Munster club football finals.
Go again, Shano. Sorry, the Kerry thing is catching me, and then because it goes from Kerry to hurling. Go again.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at a dual star here.
Yeah.
So I scored the winning goal that beat Kerry to win a Munster under 21 football championship. I started in the last Munster hurling final that my county won. And I've lost 3 Munster club football finals. I give out the answers that are coming so far.
Yeah.
Brick Walsh, no. Sean O'Donoghue, no. Mark Keane, no. Brick, no. It's not. We'll come back to it a little bit later on. We'll give people an opportunity.
It's a weird one. I need to see it on paper.
Okay, so we've plenty more to cover, and I need to get out the gap here soon. The Walsh Cup, Westmeath are against Antrim, Dublin are against Galway, and I mean this is Micheál Donoghue back to the scene of his very last game as Galway manager when they were beaten by Dublin in the Leinster Championship that time. I'm just wondering, I'm curious with the Dublin under-20s and the link with the senior team. So Shane O'Brien is a selector with the seniors, and he's over the under-20s, and Derek McGrath is part of that management group as well. What sort of a link-up or impact will there be between the two panels? I'm not sure. Offaly will meet Wexford, your boys, and Laois are against Kilkenny. Now, I watched Offaly last weekend. Very poor start to the game, but hurled quite well for the rest of it. And I know we covered that on Monday, but Laois then against Kilkenny, 2 managers that are actually the same age, Derek Ling and Willie Maher. I'm wondering, did they play underage against each other at any stage? If anyone has the answer, let us know. They both have All-Ireland underage titles as managers. Willie, of course, over Tipperary, and Derek with the under-20s. Keogh Cup will see Wicklow against Kildare and Carlow against Down. So let's talk a bit about football. Is it time to bin the pre-season competitions, which I think would also ensure that college competitions get a clear run? We've obviously seen what Liam Kearns has had to say as manager. You might give a bit of the background to that.
Yeah, I will, of course. Listen, Liam this isn't like after the fact. He flagged this up well in advance and just said the idea of, Offaly travelling up to Dublin to play a midweek game and after playing at the weekend, and the potential for them to play again next weekend, which they will have to now after beating Dublin. And it was a good performance in all fairness, very good performance from a really inexperienced team. And obviously Dublin were, really inexperienced as well, but it was a great win. But just fly through the Liam Kearns quote really, really quickly. He just said, to be honest with you, I thought it was funny because Clubber obviously are, streaming all the games, and they're, it's like anything. You're trying to accentuate the goodness of it, and Liam wouldn't hear anything of, the Aburn Cup or anything nearly good been said about it. And he just said, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind dropping out of the competition at this stage. We had 2 hard games in 4 days. It will be a 3rd game in 8 days, and our opponents had been sitting at home for the whole week. So this is in reference to Louth giving a walkover to Wexford. So they withdrew from a competition here. They didn't fulfill their last fixture. That's the integrity of the competition shot, as far as I'm concerned. If you enter a competition, you should have to fulfill your fixtures. They're going to have a week of rest, and we have had a very hard game against Dublin. 4 days later, we're supposed to play them, and I believe it's on and Louth as well. As far as I'm concerned, it's too much for us. And then he just goes in to talk about how lads will be leaving Dublin at 10:30, maybe if they were lucky to have a bit of grub, back home at 12. Later than that, a lot of people, there's a lot of probably player welfare things that kind of come into it as well. But to me, Shane, I'm the same as you. I'm either put the Fitzgibbon-Sigerson on in December nearly to itself, or get rid of the pre-season competitions, because I think I wonder how much Jack Glynn or Adrian Mullen can enjoy those competitions. That I loved playing Fitzgibbon when I was in college. I absolutely loved it. And that was even while playing with Offaly a bit at the time. But it's just, they're really hamstrung at the moment, and I wonder even how much can the teams even train together. It's just way too congested, and competitions that are the breeding ground of the future, i.e. the Sigerson and the Fitzgibbon, are just been totally brushed aside, and I don't like it at all.
Whereas you look at how they're promoted in America, and I know it's different because of the money behind them, but you have matches with 100,000 people at them. And I saw one county board chairman, I think Gordon Manning, did a piece with him saying that you wouldn't see any change out of €5,000 anyway in terms of sending a team down for a match like this. We see that Laois Carlow is also off now in that competition. That's due to Sigerson Cup commitments, injuries and sickness. Carlow can't fulfil the fixture and it won't be played at all now. We've already mentioned that Offaly beat Dublin 11 points to 8. And I wonder, like, with Dublin putting in a third string team, that also affects the integrity of the competition. Like, I'm not actually having a go at Dublin at all, but I'm just saying, if we're to take this competition seriously and one team is just using it as a development, it's not really, you know.
Yeah, Kilkenny played. I remember Eddie Brennan was over the Kilkenny senior team that played Offaly in a Walsh Cup game a couple of years ago. That's kind of the way it's gone, like.
Yeah, Jamie Barron is the latest guest that we've had for that Who Am I? Tip could be the surprise packet, says Christopher Conlon. Hey, you're not wrong there. Meath drew with Longford. So Longford have been going well under Paddy Christie. They did 2 wins, and it was a late equaliser here from, let me just double check who got the late equaliser. I can't find it, but it was a brilliant late equaliser there. But Longford have been going well. That's been atrocious conditions there. The All-Ireland Junior Club finals this weekend, Fossa against Stewartstown Hearts. You might go through some of the quotes from the Fossa forward, Emmett O'Shea, there ahead of this clash.
I surely will. Kind of been asked about what it's like to play alongside kind of David Clifford and that kind of thing, and that was a lot of what he was talking about, and even just talking about how they're slightly wary going into the final. So he just says, Emmett O'Shea says, with acknowledging that he is slight wary, O'Shea then qualified, we're not Ganiga Villa, we're our own team and we can get it done, especially with the 2 boys, David and Paddy, subs who come on against Castletown and kicked a few scores. We have that, and we can definitely win it. We were training all the time, 3 or 4 times a week. He says of the break after the Munster Championship, we trained the day after Christmas. We were very committed. We've all been training since last January. We've been climbing up mountains, doing all this tough work to get to Grove Park. It's just magical. We've all dreamt about it the last year or so, and it's great to be here. So obviously he mentioned Ganiga Villa were the last Kerry team to be in a final, and they were beaten by Mayo's Kilmena last year. So listen, as I said on the show earlier on the week, there'll be no pitch invasion or no kids going after David Clifford, which he might have a sigh of relief after the All-Ireland final if they do win, that he won't be accosted by a load of people or, you know, having to write a load of signatures. But I do think it's something that we're missing in the game. You'd have to say they are big favourites going into the game. If you look at how difficult it was for them to win Kerry and how relatively easy it has been since then, you know, beat Fiona Castleman very well, beat Castletown the last day pretty well too. They're fairly probably unbackable favourites going into this final.
Well, I have to run out the gate because of a meeting. You might go through the last few things and give people the answer to the Who Am I at the end. We'll give people an opportunity to check that out. But I'll see you all soon, and I'll put up the audio podcast a little bit later on.
A1 Shane, oh good man. So that's Fossa against Stewartstown Hearts. That's in the junior final. In the All-Ireland Intermediate Football final, it's Rathmore against Galbally. So it's interesting. Jack O'Connor will be looking at both David and Paddy Clifford in the junior final, and he'd be looking at Paul Murphy, and he'd also be looking at Shane Ryan in the intermediate final. So he's got 4 senior players on show. And that just goes to show, I suppose, the strength of the teams that are playing. Even though it is junior and intermediate level, there's a lot of really, really good players on show. So just a couple of quotes here from Galbally Pierce's and Tyrone footballer Liam Rafferty, obviously. So Ryan Dewar and Fergal Logan will be keeping a close eye on him. He has said he will be tapping up one of his clubmates in order to get the lowdown on the Kerry Stars in the Rathmore ranks ahead of their All-Ireland Intermediate Club final this Sunday. So he says he'd definitely be having a chat with Paddy this week to see how the likes of the 2 county players like Paul Murphy and Shane Ryan operate. So he's referring to Paddy Talley. They are on the panel. He said, I'd be close to Paddy. He'd have coached me at St. Mary's for a couple of years, so it'd be interesting to see what he says, but we know what to expect from a Kerry team. We'll be doing our video analysis, watching patterns of play, and trying to curb the influence of their key players. Paul Murphy just said, I wouldn't even ask Kyle Murphy. To be fair, if someone asked me for information on Rathmore, I wouldn't be giving it out, so I assume Paddy is the same. So he's obviously hoping for loyalty there from Paddy Talley. So obviously, as I mentioned there earlier, Kingdom Stars, Shane Ryan and Paul Murphy lead the line for Rathmore. Shane Ryan is in attack. He's obviously the goalkeeper for Kerry, but he plays, I think, full forward for Rathmore. And I think Kenneth O'Keefe is actually in goals, who is Declan O'Keefe's brother, who used to be the Kerry goalie. Paul Murphy actually missed the semi-final, so he tied the knot in late 2021 and missed Rathmore's he missed the Munster final, I should say, last month as a result of his delayed honeymoon. He says that day when they beat Napiershig of Limerick in the provincial decider, Murphy was watching on a laptop in New Zealand from the back of a camper van at 4:30 p.m. So he watched Derry native Chrissy Spears kick a dozen points for Atmore. Spears' haul included 10 points from frees, and he finished the game with a 100% record from place balls. 2 days earlier, Spears himself got married, though the Mara Feltman was available to report for duty and demolition, obviously, for his adopted club. So yet another one of those guys who has gotten married and managed to deliver a brilliant display within the next couple of days. Just fly through the Sigerson games. We talked to Jack Lynn about a few of them already. Queens had a 112 to 111 win over UUJ. UCD had a 211 to 13 points win over MTU Cork. That's the old Cork IT. DCU had a big win over ATU Donegal, 416 to 17. St Mary's Belfast, 14 points. SETU Carlow, that's the old Carlow IT, 8 points. UL had a 2-7 to 10 points win over UCC. TU Dublin had a 113 to 9 points win over ATU Dublin. That's the old Athlone IT. ATU Sligo, champions back in the day, probably about 20 years ago now. I think Jim McGuinness won one with them. They had a 4-6 to 12 points win over MTU Kerry, which is, I think, the old Tralee IT. And the University of Galway had a 316 to 1-6 win over Maynooth. The round 2 draw sees UL against TUD, UG, which is University of Galway against UCD, Queen's University against DCU, ATU Sligo against St Mary's, and then the round 2B draw is UUJ against ATU Donegal, UCC against ATU Sligo, MTU Kerry against Carlow IT, and Maynooth against MTU Cork. Just fly through the McKenna Cup really quickly. Derry and Tyrone played out a 10 points apiece draw at the week last night. A couple of tweets from Cara O'Kane. So he just said Derry were an irrelevance to Tyrone for so many of the last 15 years. I think that is gone now. Really enjoyable finish to this game. It showed how little either side would have enjoyed losing to the other. So this, by all accounts, was a decent bit of needle to this, even though it was only a McKenna Cup game. I think Rory Kavanagh said after that the Tyrone management had been at Derry's previous game to get a look at them. So I think he kind of intimated that maybe that's to, with a view down the line as well. Armagh had a good win over, or Kavanagh had a good win over Armagh. It was 114 to 19, and Monaghan had a 15 points to 2-7 win over Donegal. So quite experienced Monaghan side beating, a pretty youthful Donegal side. So that's Vinnie Corey's first win as Monaghan manager. The Connacht FBD semi-finals are on this weekend as well. Sligo against Roscommon, Mayo against Galway, and in the McGrath Cup we have Tipperary against Limerick and Clare against Cork. So that's all for a really, really long show, and I must go back and find the answer to the who am I before I let you all go, and I surely will. Thanks a million for joining us again. Really, really appreciate your support as always. The answer is, I'd say I could have been here a long, long time before I would have got it. So just going to read out the clues again. I scored the winning goal that beat Kerry to win a Munster Under-21 football championship. I started in the last Munster hurling final my county won. I've lost 3 Munster club finals. So the answer, and it's a tough one, the answer is Shane Walsh from Waterford. So he obviously scored the goal to beat Kerry in that Munster Under-21 football championship, and they didn't win the championship, but it was in the Munster Under-21 championship. He started in the last 3 Munster hurling finals. His county won. That's all correct, and they've lost 3 Munster club finals. That's with the Nair. He's the Nair for football and the 4 mile water for hurling. So that's sickened me a bit. I don't know about you. I actually had one here. Correct answer here from Pure Hatchet, Shane Walsh. Pure Hatchet, you definitely deserve an award of some kind for getting that one right. But folks, thanks a million for joining us again on today's show. We'll see you back on Monday, where we'll be going through all of the action from the weekend. Thanks a million for joining us, folks, and myself and Shane will be back again on Monday.